Makes me laugh every time I watch that clip. Yes, that was me. Again, I'm your instructor, Louise and Maurice, but that was me when I was golfing. I'm not going to tell you at what stage of golfing, because in today's tutorial, we're talking about beginner's mindset, and I will bring forward that information about what you just saw, but I'm also going to share with you another real world case study, as well as applying my evidence finding framework and apply it to the case study as well as that clip that you saw. We're going to look at behavioral psychology, and then I'm going to give you the exact steps so that you can develop a changes in mindset technique as well as coaching questions. Now, just a simple reminder about the steps for the framework. Let's continue. You recently attended a virtual event featuring different speakers talking about the importance of having a beginner's mindset. Each had a different quote that you could use to inspire new beginnings with your client or work teams. You immediately start using a few of the beginner mindset quotes, which include, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." A week later, you witness more apprehension and hear more excuses than ever before. When you addressed the situation, this was a response you received: "It all seems too unattainable. What if I fail? What if I succeed? I don't have what it takes. Whenever I start something, I stop because I get too overwhelmed. I just want to be a master of this skill, but maybe I'm best to just stop trying." The result is you are shocked because your program is step by step, easy to follow and implement. What evidence were you able to find after listening to the case study? What attitude was evident to you, as well as their point of view or perspective? What language did you pick out? And what did that language tell you? As well as who was the person that you found. Remember, it's always being that detective, looking for those clues. And it's not about psychoanalyzing people, and no, it's about being aware, being curious. And the more that you can focus on this, the better apt you are and able to guide people in a direction that is right for them. All right, so let us compare our notes. What was their attitude like? Well, in psychology, attitude refers to a set of emotions, beliefs, and behaviors toward a particular object, person, thing, or event. And it's quite clear that they have that fear of failure and fear of success. And depending on their upbringing, they will attach different meanings to failure and success. Now, what was their point of view or perspective? Remember, a perspective, point of view is how they see everything. And you're hearing when they're speaking, "Whenever I start something, I stop because I get too overwhelmed." And it's that phrase, too overwhelmed. They see themselves as weak and powerless. And that's where the beginner mindset mishap happens, because everyone has to start somewhere. Yet there is that attachment to just wanting to be done with it. I don't want to have to go through these steps. I just want to be a master of it all. What language did they use? Well, we hear with the language, the words, the phrasing. "Oh, I don't have what it takes. It's unattainable. What ifs?" There's lots of what ifs. So when you're listening to people speak, this is the resistance. And, "Oh, I just don't want to have to start it over again. And I just don't want to have to do this. Oh, it's too much work." And this is where the productivity is impacted. Their productivity, they're going to be procrastinating more, they're going to be giving those excuses. So it's definitely attached to that productivity. Now, did you recognize that person? Well, sometimes it might happen with yourself and family, friends, people that you're coaching, consulting, or leading at work. And that person is the one that's making excuses about the lack of productivity or the lack of implementation. They might be a perfectionist. They might want to do everything perfectly. Now, at the beginning of this video, you saw that clip of me, and I was golfing, and it was the 4. And how long do you think I've been golfing? Do you think I just started golfing, or I'd been golfing for a while? Am I a beginner, or am I a veteran, a seasoned veteran? Well, I'm somewhere in between for that. And this is what I was taught, that if you are going to hit someone with an errant golf shot, you yell 4, you make sure. And yes, it's a bit humiliating. Obviously, the people that I'm golfing with have been golfing a lot longer than I have. However, I make sure that I always do that. And even now, I make sure that I always say that, because I would never want to hurt someone. But golfing with new beginners, golfing with people that are new, that mindset mishap is, oh, I just don't want to humiliate myself and say 4. Oh, I'm such a bad golfer. Oh, why can't I master this? And this is where, when you're watching the PGA or the LPGA, they make sure that they yell 4. They're not too advanced to always have that beginner's mindset. I have just made a bad shot. I have to inform someone, because I'd never want to hurt someone. So that's where sometimes there's that beginner mindset mishap. And where does the misunderstanding start? So where does the misunderstanding start, and why is there such resistance? Well, it all boils down to the simple definition of beginner. And it's just a person that's starting out and beginning a new skill. And sometimes people have a challenging time with that, because, no, I've got to be further ahead. And what they don't understand is that throughout their whole entire lives, they are going to be learning new skills, beginning, going through that whole process. And it's not a big deal, but for some people it is, because they want to be a master. They want to master it all, and they want to master it right away. So you have to be able to guide them to have a different meaning and to have a purpose attached to the understanding of a beginner's mindset. And sometimes it takes for you to understand psychology. So we'll look at that next. I want you to think about the people you coach, consult, or lead. Now, what goals do they want to achieve? And how is their behavior stopping them from achieving those goals? And especially the beginner's mindset and some of the mishaps. Do they just want to know it all, do it all, and be done with it? And this is where, when you're reviewing the wiki site on behaviorism, behavioral psychology, it's important to understand that starting place, to get that deeper awareness. And when we look at some of these methodologies, and we go down here to the operant conditioning developed by B.F. Skinner, the positive and negative reinforcement, the positive punishment, negative punishment, this is where it's that awareness, because sometimes when people were young and they were developing, they may have been parented by people who expected them to be perfect, expected them to get it right away. And it's this way that they were either reinforced or punished that stops them. So you want to develop questions that provide them with that insight about their early conditioning without throwing out words like operant conditioning and B.F. Skinner. And you never want people to feel like they're being psychoanalyzed. But after you have developed those two initial questions with regards to helping them to be more aware of where their blocks and obstacles are, then you can move into developing a changes in mindset technique. And this is important to fully look at this entire site. Now, it's always not about theory. You want to make theory just something that you can learn from and pull from. But as I was reviewing the site for you, I kind of looked down, way down at the beginning. Now, obviously, cognitive behavior therapy, we had talked about with regards to the growth mindset, but dialectical behavior therapy. Now, this is used more with personality disorders and so forth. However, you can use it, you can pull it forward, especially for that beginner's mindset, because mindfulness, acceptance and change, distress tolerance. And if people were harshly punished when they didn't do something right, they're going to have that resistance to trying anything new because they're not going to want to get it wrong. They want to get things right. So starting something new brings out a lot of anxiety and especially some challenging emotions, fear and anger. And there's that emotional intensity and volatility when it comes to having that beginning again or beginning anything new. So you want to guide them to identify and label their emotions as it relates to beginning, identify their obstacles to changing those emotions, and helping them to be obviously more positive, but reduce that vulnerability. So developing techniques that will move them in that way. Now, remember, at the end of this video, I'll just share with you where you can find the beginner mindset part 6 PDF document on my website. But that is dialectical behavior therapy is something that's very, very useful, especially with regards to helping them to identify their blocks and obstacles to having that beginner's mindset, because it is important to always be able to regulate their emotions. I want to thank you for sharing your valuable time with me in this mini tutorial about a beginner's mindset. We looked at that real world case study and the evidence finding framework, and you've been able to make those connections and understand, hopefully for your own situation, how there has been that mismatch or misunderstanding. We looked at behavioral psychology to develop techniques that will guide you and guide your clients, whomever your clients are, as well as those coaching questions. Now remember, I always provide you with that PDF document. You just want to visit my website, louiseandmaurice.com. Click on free, then empowered mindset, then locate the beginner's mindset PDF document. It is free to download. There is no email address that is required. Now stick around if you are not a subscriber, because I'm going to share with you how you can subscribe so you don't miss any of the Empowered Mindset series.